it depends on your classification, but for the most part, yes. Yeah, today for me, I had about 3 staff reports that I needed to write. So I saved myself probably a good 2.5 hours on the road by not driving in. So
where do you live, Danny?
I'm in the valley. I'm in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Oh, that is a schlep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Did you just have a couple murders there?
oh, well, look at you paying attention. No, we haven't.
There was something about Santa Clarita in the news recently.
Oh,
I can't remember what it was.
Got it.
There's plenty of shooting and murder to go around.
So much everywhere. I can't keep track of where they're all happening.
Yeah.
I don't mean to laugh or make light of it. I mean, it's terrible.
Right.
Santa somewhere just had some shootings.
Got it. I'm gonna hop right back on. I have a council member giving me a call.
Good evening, Vice Chair Eisenberg and Commissioner Eng, and also Commissioner Hang. Good evening. This is my first meeting with all of you. My name is Vito Adamitis. I'm the new Neighborhood and Business Safety Manager. So pleased to be here with all of you.
Nice to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
And
Yes.
welcome to our meeting.
Thank you so much.
Are you a resident or a city staff person?
I'm a city staff person, and this is my 3rd week here on the job. And every day I seem to be ramping up a little more with all the stuff going on.
Sharp learning curve.
But super excited to be here and to be part of a great team of very dedicated staff. So I'm very, very proud to be here and very thrilled to be working on all the work that we're working on. So it's going to be a big year.
Terrific.
Hi, good evening. I just want to remind the team that at 7 o'clock, we will start recording.
At 6 o'clock?
At 6 o'clock, yes.
Yep.
WehoTV is on site, and at 6 o'clock, we'll start recording. Vice Chair Eisenberg and other commissioners, please meet. Well, you introduced yourself, Vito, so thank you so much for that. I had to check the messages and everything.
No worries.
Thanks.
So Jessica, you tell me when I'm supposed to start reading.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and Fallon will start recording as soon as we have Commissioner Lowe and Commissioner Yusupov. And they both confirmed that they will be present today. So as soon as Fallon, as soon as both commissioners show up, we can go ahead and start recording. But WehoTV will record for WehoTV.
Okay. We are without Chair Vulin this evening?
Correct. Chair Vulin is absent today, so Vice Chair Eisenberg will lead the meeting tonight.
Looks like Commissioner Saltzman isn't here either.
Correct.
So this will be the last virtual meeting, correct? Or do we know?
So far, yes. The next meeting will be in person. In December, the City Council approved that both January and February meetings would be a teleconference, and in March we'll be back in person in the chambers.
And I understand after May, there's no more teleconferencing, correct?
I haven't heard Commissioner Eng, but you know, Danny can provide us with an update later on. But we'll see. Yes, things are looking good.
I think Joe Biden said that one, but I'm not sure.
I hope he started DVRing it. His speech tonight.
Yeah.
It'll be a good one.
It'll run. I mean, there's YouTube now, right? We can just go watch it.
Yeah.
So, Oh, Commissioner Hang, you're not mirrored. Or you
Oh.
are, mirrored, yes,
Am I?
yes, which is why you read, do all it, right, like,
I forgot the Pledge of Allegiance.
yeah, I was wondering, I don't know, do we do that when it's virtual?
Apparently, yes.
Yes, we do.
Mark, you're very pale.
Yeah, I was trying to, hi everyone. I was trying to figure out what's happening with my camera and
There you go. There you go with your lighting.
yeah, I guess it's lighting.
You
But
have a haircut.
my wife's notebook broke, so we're probably gonna be shopping for new ones. So
Her notebook, her Mac.
yeah, her Mac finally gave up after 10 years, which is
Wow.
great.
You're overdue.
being- and yeah, so
I think the only Apple product I have that's over 10 years old is an iPad or iPod, not pad, iPod.
Does
and
it still work? You're still
That's a
using it?
classic.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a classic.
Hey,
Yeah.
commissioners, how's everybody doing?
Hi, Danny.
Good. Commissioner Hank, your logo is backwards. It's in reverse.
He's weird.
I
Hit-
don't
you
know
know-
how to reverse it.
So if you look at it'll say there's a button that says mirror, and you're mirrored.
Okay, where do I find that button?
Look at go to your video button. Ooh,
Uh-huh.
ooh. And hit the arrow. I believe it is there. Video settings, do you see it? Yeah, that's
Oh,
where it
And then mirror. Got it.
Yeah.
Like that?
Didn't work. And Director Evis, why do you have a
Low has joined us.
white logo and we all have black?
Yeah, I need to. It's usually the one that we utilize for Pride. We're in June, yeah, and so we have the same, one that you all have right now reflected in black, but we use this one for Pride.
I have that one on the backgrounds. You must not have sent it.
I can send it to you, Commissioner Hang, too.
Okay.
Yeah, if you'd like to.
Okay.
Commissioner Lowe, we see you on. But at least you're on. We can't see you, but
I don't have my back screen on, so let me figure out how to do it. It's been a while since I've done it. Sorry.
that's okay. That's okay.
So, I'll tell you, you see your video button on your bottom left and you see the arrow? Yeah,
Yes.
that's where it is.
Whoa,
All
you just did
right,
like a
there you
360,
go.
Commissioner Hang.
Yeah, I can't figure out. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to make you aware. So if you see it, you're like, hey, why was my logo and nobody told me anything? So I wanted
Because
to.
it looks normal on my end, but yeah.
There you
Got
go.
it. There's Commissioner Lowe. Great. So I'll tell you what. So Jessica or Fallon, I think we're good to go to get started. So let's go ahead and record, and then Vice Chair Eisenberg, we can get started with the meeting.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Hello, everybody. The meeting of the Business License Commission is called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino, Tongva, and Gabrielino Keys peoples. Okay, and let us start the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody? I pledge
Allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Secretary, could we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Ing,
Here.
Commissioner Hang,
Here.
Commissioner Lowe,
Present.
Commissioner Yusupov,
Present.
and Vice Chair Eisenberg.
Present.
And let the record reflect that Commissioner Saltzman and Chair Woolen are absent tonight.
Okay, now the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, tonight's agenda?
There are no changes.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion is approved by Commissioner Yusupov and seconded by Commissioner Eng. And could we get a roll call on that, please, Secretary?
Commissioner Ing,
Yes.
Commissioner Hang,
Yes.
Commissioner Lowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Yusupov,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Eisenberg.
Aye.
And the item is approved.
Okay. On the minutes, are there any changes to the minutes of December 8th, 2022?
There are no changes.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minute?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Yusupov to approve and seconded by Commissioner Hang. Could we get a roll call, Secretary?
Commissioner Ing,
Aye.
Commissioner Hang,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Yusupov,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Eisenberg.
Aye.
And the item is approved.
Okay, now we move to public comment. And Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
There are no public speakers tonight.
Okay. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the West Hollywood Business License Commission on consent calendar items or items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. This is not the public comment period for any public hearings on the agenda. Public comment for public hearings will occur at the time of the hearing. There will also be a general public comment later in the meeting for those who cannot be heard at this time. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, but as we don't have any speakers, we'll move on to the next section of the hearing tonight. We don't have a public hearing tonight, so we'll move on to unfinished business. Is there a staff report?
Hi, good evening, Vice Chair Eisenberg and Business License Commissioners and members of the public. My name is Jessica Benitez. I'm a Code Enforcement Supervisor. Also joining me this evening is Vito Adomaitis, the city's new Neighborhood and Business Safety Manager. So welcome, Vito, to our first Business License Commission. And also Danny Rivas, our Director of Community Safety. So the item before you this evening is an update of the County Department of Public Health, which reports that as of January 29th, there has been 11,064 positive COVID cases in West Hollywood. This represents about 4% increase from the previous report in December. As far as vaccination rate, there has been no change since December, and no commercial establishments were identified as having 3 or more confirmed COVID cases. Now moving to monkeypox, the LA County reports 944 confirmed positive cases, about 2% increase from the previous report. Additionally, the County Health Department reports that 28,132 monkeypox vaccinations have been administered in the LA metro area, and 73,226 first doses have administered in LA County. Also, as part of this update, we report any action in support to local businesses. Last night, the City Council approved an amendment to the city's current outdoor dining policy, as well as the current temporary out zones. And as you recall, the temporary out zones were installed during the pandemic. This amendment would allow those businesses that have an out zone to convert them into a permanent outdoor dining. Of course, they would have to meet certain criteria. They would have to go through planning division and engineering approval to make sure that it meets those standards. The final resolution will be presented to the next City Council meeting, which is scheduled for February 21st. So with that, I conclude my update, and I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Quick question too.
Commissioner Yusupov?
Regarding those out zones, so it's gonna go to the planning and engineering. Is there a chance it's gonna go before our commission as well, or you don't think it's gonna come to?
No, these are administerial permits. What it does is it goes to the planning division. The planning division will look at the dimensions of what the proposal, right? And if it approves, then it will be going to engineering. Engineering will be looking at the size and the width of the sidewalk to make sure it meets those policies that are implemented through planning and engineering division. And I know that Urban's Danny, remind me, Rick's Abraham's title, but I think he's a studio architect. He also will be part of the review.
And at some point, they will get also a public input, I'm assuming? Planning commission or engineering, they would be getting public input, or would that be just merely?
Yeah,
Mm,
so
architecture.
for this request, it requires a minor conditional use permit. So depending at what level it goes to the director's hearing, if the person or the business does not like or would like to appeal, then it goes to the planning commission, and from there it may go to city council to appeal.
Okay. No, I just want to mention that one of the places that blossomed after this was allowed is Dialogue Cafe. I don't know if you guys been there.
It was
but,
discussed heavily last night. I listened in on last night's city council meeting. I weighed in on it as well.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah, I guess I missed that part, but that cafe is doing great. I mean, with that out zone, and I think there were at least one incident there, but that was related to something else, to maybe a different I forgot what those calls, like a little outlets they had there, but since then it was removed. So
You mean the parklet?
parklet,
Parklet?
yeah, there was a parklet that was problematic, but I think the parklet is gone. But that's why I was, yeah, just wondering that if there would be any public input, because I think public loves it there. So that's my only question. All right, well,
Not
thanks.
so sure about that. Commissioner Yang?
In the December meeting, I had asked for an update on Aon and High Times and sort of the status of some of the cannabis businesses. I'm wondering if there is an update on any of them. I did notice that Aon is now not going to be opening and High Times is still not opened.
So couple of things, we will answer those at the director's update. Danny, or do you want to stick with the agenda, or is it okay to?
No, yeah, let's stick to the agenda, but yeah, definitely bring that up, and we'll be able to provide an update. There may be some information on one of those businesses that we can't get into detail with, but yeah, we'll at least be able to provide a snapshot of what's going on with those.
Fantastic, thank you.
There any other comments from any commissioners? I also wanted to make a comment. I was going to ask the same question, actually, as both Commissioners Yusupov and Commissioner Ang. I also would like a status report of all of the lounges that we reviewed in the past year, if they weren't already open at the time, where they stand now, and what's the anticipated time before they do open. High Times was one of the ones that I was curious about as well, because we had asked them for a review at 6 months, which is right about now. So
yeah, so Vice Chair and Commissioners, that would be best to ask those questions during items from commissioners, or waiting until, items from staff for us to be able to respond. Right now, we're obviously focused on the Los Angeles County Health Order and the updates and the information that Jessica just provided. So we want to stick to that, but then we can move on and obviously have an opportunity to talk about those other things.
okay, but Jessica, we just talked about the out zones. And at last night's meeting, there were a couple of people who commented on Dialogue Cafe because it has extended so much into the territory, and there apparently have been a lot of complaints from the neighbors around it. And I know Councilman Heilman weighed in, since he goes down Holloway, as I do on a regular basis. And while Dialogue Cafe is a wonderful cafe, we all love it, It's easily 5 times the size of the original bakery, which had a small patio. So if anything, it might be a little bit bigger than anybody had anticipated, and that's causing some problems in the neighborhood. Just something to think about. But I gather that's a planning and city permit decision.
Yeah, it's not. And I'll hop in because I was actually at the city council meeting the entire evening in the council chamber. So certainly familiar with the item. And although community safety in our department wasn't a part of it, we did, and we are actually a part of the working group that provides input and feedback. So anytime that there are potential issues with somebody's layout and floor plan or site plan, in terms of what was approved. So, you know, whether it's Dialogue Cafe or any of the other temporary outdoor dining areas that you see out throughout the community, we will, in neighborhood and business safety, you know, have a code enforcement officer that will go out, take a look at, right, whatever was approved at the time and ensure that, you know, whatever tables, chairs, whatever adequate spacing and width of the sidewalks and ingress, egress for ADA accessibility, et cetera, that staff will look at that. And so I certainly heard everything that everybody else had heard yesterday evening. And to Vice Chair Eisenberg's point, there were some comments obviously that were made concerning that particular outdoor dining area. And so we will be following up and going out and doing inspections and confirming if there are any issues. And if there are, then we would be addressing that with the business directly. But we certainly were made aware of it and heard those concerns. So thank you for mentioning that.
I happened to drive by it today, and it looks like it almost a full city block, not the city block it's on, but it looks like it extends at least 4 parking spaces long. It goes from the corner at least 50 feet or more.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've gone by it recently, but it seems to be much bigger than the space probably would have allowed originally.
Yeah, if there's any issues, you know, I don't obviously have the floor plan or the site plan in front of me. But again, I mean, if there's something that is of concern, if they expanded beyond what they should be utilizing, then that's something that we would address. And if there isn't, and that's what they were approved for, then obviously we would still communicate what was reported and what was said and the input and feedback that was provided yesterday, just to bring that to their attention. But we'll definitely follow up with the business in terms of that.
Could you report back to us on that as well?
I'm happy to contact you specifically, but we're not going to get into any sort of compliance related issues before the Business License Commission, unless that's something that we bring forth as a part of a hearing before you all. But I'm happy to connect with you offline, Vice Chair. Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny.
Sure.
Okay. We just had the items from the staff. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I guess we're done with no questions. I take it from Jessica, right?
From health order.
Yeah. From the health order. So
okay then.
Yeah. So I guess we can move on. Yes, the items from staff. So first and foremost, I know Vito Adamanis had an opportunity to introduce himself to some of you in the beginning before we got the meeting started. So I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you all to our neighborhood and business safety manager, Vito. This is his 3rd week, I believe. And so we haven't scared him off yet. He's still coming back to work every day. That's a good thing. But yeah, he will be serving as the staff liaison moving forward for the Business License Commission. And so I wanted to certainly just give him an opportunity to introduce himself as well. So Vito.
Thank you, Danny. And good evening, Vice Chair and members of the Commission. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to work with all of you going forward as your liaison from staff. I'm super excited and thrilled to be part of the team here at the City of West Hollywood, and look forward to working with our staff and our team and this commission and doing a lot of great things in the coming year.
Great. So I'll hop right back in as well. And so just a couple of updates. I'm glad, Jessica did mention yesterday's conversation regarding the temporary outdoor dining areas. And so that was definitely something that I know has been long coming in the business community. And there's been also, a lot of input and feedback, obviously, that's been provided by the residents, community members as well. One of the other items that has not yet been brought forth to the city council that I just wanted to put on everybody's radar here that we're working on is actually regarding temporary cannabis events that would be allowed in terms of activity at certain, festivities such as Pride and et cetera. So we have been working with some of the businesses, and this was something that has actually been brought to our attention, and us doing research and looking at, at the state level in terms of what their requirements are, and even looking to other cities that are allowing this type of temporary cannabis event license or permit to occur, and looking to them to see, what they have in place. So it is something that we're continuing to work on, and with a goal of bringing that before the city council in the very near future, which would allow hopefully some folks to be able to take advantage of that, in anticipation of our Pride festivities in June. So certainly be keeping all of you up to date with, any sort of progress that's made as it relates to that. And so I guess I'll just dive into some of the questions too. I know Commissioner Eng and Vice Chair Eisenberg had mentioned some of the updates for two businesses specifically. Aon, to your point, Commissioner Eng, you've heard correctly in terms of them having some difficulties and working through some things internally with their company. In terms of getting open. I know that they're very close in terms of the tenant improvements that were being made, but they have not yet gotten over the obstacles and the challenges that they're trying to work through. So I know that their compliance date, and Jessica, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, is in April. I don't know the specific date of this year that the license would either have to show that they are making progress towards opening, or if they were unable to, then essentially they would be in the category of potentially losing and forfeiting their license. So we will be certainly working with them like we have been in communication, as well as some of the other businesses that are working as they get a little nearer towards their compliance kind of opening dates, and certainly be reporting back. And so Vice Chair Eisenberg did ask, kind of like a comprehensive overview and an update on all of the licenses and lounges, et cetera. And so that's something that we will definitely bring before the Business License Commission. Maybe we'll do it next month, but I know that next month we're going to be having two public hearings that are forecasted. One will be an extended hours business license for a entertainment nightclub venue. And then we'll also be having an existing cannabis business that's in operation that will be submitting for modifications to their approved use in site plan. And I know we have even another cannabis business that's also interested and has reached out in terms of making some modifications to their conditions of approval. I don't know whether or not that will be a third. It's probably unlikely, me looking at the calendar right now and it being the 7th of February, but at least we're anticipated to have two hearings during our Business License Commission meeting in March. And so those can take a little bit of time, but we can certainly either add an update regarding cannabis businesses as a whole for March, or the latest in April, so that we can really kind of dive in and concentrate on that particular topic, because I know it's a topic of concern. High Times was the other business, Commissioner Eng, that I think you had mentioned. And I think Vice Chair Eisenberg, you had also mentioned, there was a due date in terms of a report to come back before the Business License Commission. And so we did look at that. And basically, essentially what it says is that in the resolution that was adopted, it's upon reopening of the business. So the business has to have reopened, and then 6 months from that time frame is when we would plan to bring that license back before the Business License Commission for review. The business has not opened since the variance request and the transfer percentage of ownership. And so the fact that it has not reopened, there wouldn't be a need for us to come back before the Business License Commission, because really what that is entailing is looking at the operational requirements, right? How have they been operating? Have they been operating in good fashion, in compliance with all of the conditions of approval? But because they have not been open, there really wouldn't be anything for us to report on, if that makes sense. And so that kind of concludes kind of my updates. And I think the last question that was asked a little bit earlier was if this is the last virtual meeting that we would be having. I know we didn't meet last month. And so the answer to that question is yes, this would be the last virtual meeting. As we're looking forecast and looking ahead, we definitely will be meeting in person in March back in the city council chambers. So you can all plan on that. Back in December, there was a city council directive and motion made to suspend meeting in person. However, part of that motion and direction was to also provide our city manager with the ability to look and monitor and evaluate, right, and assess COVID cases in terms of them decreasing, and then allowing for commissions and advisory boards to meet in person. And so it was kind of a short notice as we looked at some of the COVID cases obviously have decreased substantially within the last couple of weeks. But we have to put in requests and we have to do other things internally to get us to have an in-person meeting in the city council chambers. So that was the reason why we just stuck with the virtual meeting for this meeting. And I think it was kind of good because we really didn't have anything on the agenda, right? Aside from just an update, LA County health order and whatnot. And then the introduction, not to say that lightly, of your new neighborhood and business safety manager and staff liaison, Vito. But to also kind of give a sense of what to look ahead in March and as we move forward in this calendar year. And then just lastly, before I open it up to questions, I know I've been asked by the Public Safety Commission, which we staff as well, and some of the folks here on the Business License Commission in terms of, hey, what's going on with city council appointments? To commissions, advisory boards, right? And so I think that's an important question. I know it's been coming up the last 2-3 months. And so, the schedule is looking for our city council to start making appointments as early as the next city council meeting, or the latest, the first meeting in March. And so they'll begin making those appointments at large, as well as their direct appointments to the commission. And so any changes, any progress, et cetera, we certainly will be providing that to all of you, keeping you updated on that. And so if that does happen, all of you have kind of gone through that. If there's an appointment in the next meeting, city council, then, more than likely you would have a new commissioner coming in and receiving their oath of office in the meeting in March. So that could potentially be their first meeting. And we have 2 hearings, right, scheduled essentially that evening. So it would be a lot to take in, but, we look forward to having new potential members on the Business License Commission. And again, just making sure that we'll keep everybody updated as much as possible. But I would, at the latest, expect that, in April, whatever changes have occurred in terms of appointments made by the city council, that would have already been completed. And we would be having new team members on the commission, participating in April. So I will pause now and happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Commissioner Hang?
I have a question. Will we be holding new elections, or do the current terms extend out for the following 24 months?
And are you referring, Commissioner Hang, to the chair and vice chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that typically occurs in June of every year. So yeah, things will remain as is. Obviously we've had some turnover with some of the commissioners, and so hence the reason why we've had to elect, right? The commission elects a new chair and vice chair, et cetera. But traditionally, June of every calendar year is when that occurs. And so if there are members that have been appointed to the commission to chair and vice chair, and they've only served for a short period of time, and I would have to look at the bylaws again, because I know this came up maybe about 2 years ago. Commissioner Lowe, maybe I think you were the only one, or maybe Commissioner Eisberg was on as well. But I know there was a situation where we had a commissioner that was only by default or elected and nominated by the commission, served for like 2-3 months. And then the question was, well, can they continue to serve? Or if they're nominated, and that's the will of the majority of the commission. And so there is language in there that would allow a vice chair and chair not having served a full year or even 10 months, 11 months, et cetera, in their role to be able to continue to serve. But I'll have to clarify and look at the bylaws regarding that.
I believe we just voted them in again, the people who had served on a short period of time.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lowe, if you remember that the same way. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I have a question, Danny.
Sure.
You mentioned the cannabis events. Exactly what would that entail?
So it's a work in progress, but essentially what it would allow is, and I'll just use Pride as an example. So let's say that there are license holders that are approved at the state level, approved at our level, at the local level. They would essentially be allowed to have a booth or an area set up in a specific area and be able to sell cannabis legally during the event. In addition to that, one of the other aspects that we're looking at is also potentially allowing a consumption area as well. And so those are the two aspects or activities, I should say, that would be considered to be allowed during special events, while of course still remaining in compliance with state law, et cetera. So those are things that we don't have in place right now. And so essentially it's not something that we've ever allowed. And actually, like even our neighbors in the city of LA, I've had, some folks kind of mention, oh, the city of LA allows it. Well, they actually don't allow temporary cannabis events in the city of Los Angeles. They do not have a process. So for those that have maybe visited or have attended something, it was being performed unpermittedly from the city of LA. But that's something that we're looking at. And that's essentially what it would be.
Don't we discourage people to be walking in the streets when they're high or anything like we discourage public drinking? And wouldn't having a consumption lounge on the site kind of encourage that? They would pick up and walk away in the middle of all these events, or is that not a concern?
That's something that obviously will be taken into consideration and discussed when the item is brought before the city council. So that could be part of the discussion. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Danny.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions actually. So Director Rivas, when you were mentioning the temporary licensing, it would be to allow businesses outside of WeHo that are legal in WeHo to be selling during these events? The consumption part I understand, but the event permit would allow businesses not in WeHo to sell cannabis?
That's something that we haven't yet gotten into in terms of solidifying what the proposal will be. But that could be a possibility, or the alternative to that, of course, would be allowing, West Hollywood business license holders the opportunity to do so. So that's all part of the framework, and definitely input and feedback that we're receiving from our business community, our cannabis business license holders. So
every one of them is going to oppose it. I can just tell you that right now. And then my second question is Director Adamitis. Adamitis, am I saying that correctly?
So I'm not the director. I'm the manager for neighborhood and business safety.
Okay, does that mean that you are now, if you are our liaison, are you replacing Danny, or Danny, will you still be with us? Or Director Rios, will you still be with us?
So I will still be with you all, as neighborhood and business safety is a division of our community safety department. So you have different functions that make up departments throughout our city and in every city. And so, yeah, so Vito serves as the division manager. And so neighborhood and business safety serves as the liaison to the Business License Commission. It's a part of the community safety department, which I am director of. So I'm still a part of the team, and will certainly be included and participating and involved. Obviously having some background in cannabis hearings and ordinances and things of such, but eventually, Commissioner Eng, I will not be attending the meetings, and I certainly won't be communicating as frequently as I have in the past. And that will be Vito. Vito will be your point of contact. And so if there's something that you all need him to look into, whether it's community safety related or even another department, then Vito will be able to track that down. And I can just say, not to speak for Vito, but he's got a tremendous amount of experience working for local government and cities. And so, he brings with him just a vast knowledge and is familiar with cannabis, as he's worked in different cities that actually have licensed cannabis as well. Some license, some don't license. And so it's kind of a mixture, right? Depending on what community you are serving. But yes, I'll still be a part of the team, but we'll be behind the scenes, if that makes sense.
Any other questions? Can I tag on to Commissioner Eng's question to Manager Adamitis? If neighborhoods or individuals have issues in their neighborhood, are you the person they should contact?
Yes, they can contact me directly. I'm happy. I'm already getting contacted directly by residents in the city with various neighborhood issues. So feel free to send them my way, and I would be happy to assist them. And already, as Director Rivas knows, I'm already getting tagged by folks who are coming to me with neighborhood issues, and we're working hard to provide responsive and diligent service to the residents of the city of West Hollywood. And I know how important that is here. It's been communicated to me, and I'm thrilled to be a part of that in providing service back to the community.
Thank you.
And I think that's a great question, Vice Chair, just so that every commissioner is aware too. So Vito, as the Neighborhood and Business Safety Division Manager, oversees code enforcement. He will also manage our animal care and control contract and our regulatory business license process, which includes being the liaison to the Business License Commission, and the issuance of the various permits that we issue in neighborhood and business safety. And so those are the team members that Vito will have the great opportunity to serve.
Terrific.
Sure.
Okay, time for public comment. Again, do we have any speakers at this time?
There are no comments at this time.
Okay, then let's move on to items from the commissioners. Would anyone like to start? Commissioner Hang?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I hope everyone had a happy holidays and New Year. We didn't meet last month. I have a couple of items. I just wanted to congratulate Mayor Shine and Mayor Pro Tempore Erickson on their installation as mayor and mayor pro tem of the city. And I just wanted to say that I was very proud of the decision we made as a whole regarding the public hearing that we held in December. I thought it was the correct decision. And the case itself had raised some inquiries I had pertaining to the process. If my colleagues are in agreement with me, I would like to request staff invite personnel from the Business License Investigation Unit of the Major Crimes Bureau of the Sheriff's Department to come and provide the commission with a presentation on their business license background investigation process. I think this presentation by the department would allow for transparency to the public on what their background investigation process is, so that potential applicants can have all their ducks in a row before they apply. Unlike that poor applicant who applied in December, she had to come back and reapply 3 times before she was able to submit her application. And I also think it would be a good opportunity for myself as a new commissioner to be educated on the process and what's required. So if my colleagues would indulge me, I would just like that request. And also I had a question for Director Rivas. It came to notice at the December hearing that the applicant had to pay a pretty substantial sum for a notice of public hearing fee. I believe it was in the thousands, maybe up to 3,000 plus for that. A lot of small business owners, small business owners may not have that money on hand to file an appeal. I'm just curious, what's that fee used for? In the event where a case is reversed, would the city reimburse the applicant that fee?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Hank, for those questions. And so I'll start with the latter. So yeah, every applicant that comes before the Business License Commission does have to pay some sort of fee, and that fee is determined based on the type of license that's being applied for. And or in that particular situation, an appeal on the decision that was made right at the staff level. And so for that particular appeal process, the applicant would pay half of the license fee that they're applying for. And so that was for a massage parlor or a massage establishment, license. And so the massage establishment license fee is $300. And so half of that fee is what they needed to pay to appeal, which is $150. However, the bulk of the costs, the remaining costs, as you just mentioned, Commissioner Hang, was a couple of thousands of dollars. And that was related to public hearing noticing, and the costs that go into that when staff is having to, provide the labels, do a mailer, a 500-foot radius from where the location is that they're being provided. So it is exactly identical to what the Planning Commission and the hearings that go before the commission, so applicants when they're submitting, so it follows that same process. So essentially it's a pass through the cost that the city has to undertake, and a big part of that too is postage, mailing postage. My goodness, I don't know if you all have been to the post office lately, but it adds up quite quickly. And so the bulk of the cost, as I can just kind of pull it up here, it looked like 21. So the total that they paid was $2,279. So if you deduct $150, from that left $21.29, and that $21.29 is made up of those fees that I just mentioned regarding mailing labels, the mailing fee, and postage. And so when you add all of that up, that is the cost that's being passed on to the applicant in terms of having the hearing. That's actually not allowing us full recovery because, all of our time, obviously, when we have hearings, there's a staff report that's prepared and written. That obviously gets reviewed by a number of different staff members internally. And so, it all takes time posting on the website, sending that to the city clerk's office. And so when you kind of add up all of that time, I can certainly tell you that the city is not recovering its full cost. But the intent of that, any permit fee or hearing fee, whether it's the business license commission, whether it's planning commission, or even before the city council, I think it's an excellent opportunity for me to share this with everyone. Those fees are based off of the amount of time and the actual costs that the city is undertaking to have that hearing performed. So that was the bulk of that cost. Like I can just kind of use cannabis as an example as well, because those license fees are far more than $300. It's going to be even more money, right, for a cannabis business to come before the commission, because again, it's established at half of the fee, with the idea that it takes us half of the time that it would if it was like a new application. So the review process is a little bit less. But again, just kind of mentioning the examples that I mentioned with all the team members and staff from different departments sometimes that get involved. It's very difficult, and these fees are evaluated. Typically, you have a study that's done throughout the organization with every department, every division that issues licenses and permits and that holds hearings. They do an audit, if you will, and a feasibility study for us to kind of go through and tabulate and work with a consultant. And then we come up with a fee that's proposed, and that gets presented as a public hearing before the city council, and is adopted every year as part of our master fee resolution. So, but great question that you asked. And then for the first question, Commissioner Hang, you asked about requesting staff to look into if we have consensus with the rest of the commission here to reach out to the Major Crimes Bureau at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and having the civilian investigator see if they can come and attend a business license commission to provide a presentation. So we can certainly reach out if there's consensus here from the rest of the commission in terms of us looking into that.
If there's a motion, I will second it. I think that it would be most helpful both for us and the public.
I agree. I support the recommendation.
Great. Commissioner Yusupov?
Yes.
Yes. Great. And Commissioner Lowe, I hope we didn't lose you there.
Okay. Danny, can I ask you, I'd like to make a comment on what you were
Are we talking about, sorry, I just want to make sure, are these commissioners meetings, I mean, these comments, are we reporting them into the agenda item? I mean, I'm just, because I don't understand why we're inserting topics here that are not part of the topic.
It's Commissioner.
I mean, it's just fine if Commissioner Hang wants to include them into the topic. I just don't know why we're.
It's Commissioner comments right now.
Yeah, I get the comments, but there sounds like there's agenda items here.
No, so yeah, Commissioner Hang, so during the items of commissioners, he's bringing up if we could have it looked into and agendized at a future meeting. So what I'm looking for is just consensus on moving forward with that. And it sounds like we have majority, but I wanted to just ask you, there's no motion needed because it's not an actionable item that's on the agenda this evening, but Commissioner.
That's why I'm confused, because it sounds like it's an actionable item.
It's not. So there's no motion needed, but whenever there's a request made, as long as there's consensus from the majority of the commission, then we can certainly move forward with that request. And so that is what Commissioner Hang has done. He's made a request to see about us looking into coordinating, having Major Crimes Bureau civilian investigator come and provide a presentation on their process. So I'm just looking on, how everybody feels regarding that. So that was the question.
Commissioner Lowe, do you support the recommendation?
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Danny, I'd like to make a comment on the things you were just talking about as far as the fees.
Mhm.
I totally understand the postage and mailing costs. They are quite large, quite high, and I can understand the city wanting to recover that. But as far as the comments on the city staff's time and doing reports and evaluating and going through, with all due respect, I believe that's everyone's job. That's what we pay our taxes for, and that's a responsibility of everyone's department, just in the normal parts of business. I don't think that's something the city should look into recouping.
Yeah, and certainly understand that and respect that. But I can tell you, having worked for 3 cities, as well as Vito, knowing that I can also tap him with more than 3 cities that he's worked throughout California. Every city throughout the state of California does do cost recovery and does the exact same thing that the city of West Hollywood does. Some are obviously a little more assertive and egregious in terms of what they're looking to recover in terms of staff time. And so I was just trying to provide you all an example, but that's something that's been done since the city's inception, that the County of Los Angeles does, that the City of LA does, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, Culver City, the list goes on. So it's not something new that the city has just emerged with or created.
And if I can comment also, Director Rivas, it seems that what you said was that some of the hard costs were covered, but that the staff time was not being covered in it anyway. So it does seem, Vice Chair Eisenberg, that they're not actually passing all of those.
No, I realize that. I just thought the comment as far as not recovering the costs was probably not, it shouldn't be considered. Like, I believe when the planning department, this isn't our area or our purview, but I correct me if I'm wrong, but planners don't get reimbursed by the developers for all the work they do reviewing architectural plans and development plans, do they?
They do not.
Well, that's part of their job. That's part of their job.
It's a part of the application review fee. So I stand corrected. At when somebody submits plans, they pay a fee, right? And that fee actually does include review time by a planner as part of that process. So there is an application fee as a part of that review, and it doesn't guarantee that somebody gets approved for a project, but it does get captured.
Do you know roughly what how high those fees are? I mean, are we talking $10,000, $15,000, $20,000? Because there's a lot of work that goes into reviewing plans, a lot of time.
Yeah, I don't, but it's definitely on the city's website, and it's posted on there, and I can certainly send you the link,
Okay.
and connect you with folks if you have questions in terms of that.
No, it's just the way it was phrased. It seems to me it's not possible to analyze what everybody's time is worth over the extent of a large project and allocate fund, allocate an expense for it. That's just my point, but thank you.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have a follow-up quick question for Mr. Rivas. For small business owners who can't afford to file an appeal, are there any relief programs that the city has, or are they just kind of SOL?
Yeah, there is not. I mean, we do have a number of financial hardship programs, but it's all dependent on the circumstance. And so I would have to be kind of provided with a certain scenario, right? An example. And if there is something that we have that's available, when folks are penalized, like if they're issued a citation, et cetera, then there's certainly financial hardship waivers and other alternatives as a part of those appeal processes. So, but it all depends. Depends on what it is. And in some cases, I mean, if it's a new business and the requirement is to have a hearing, then there really isn't any way around that. There's certain businesses that are heavily regulated, like cannabis businesses, that the city established, right, a hearing process. So when somebody initially is submitting for a new cannabis license, then obviously they go through that process and they pay that fee. those fees as a part of that initial review process. Yeah, I mean, for small businesses, I can tell you that like public eating, which is makes up a lot of the bulk of our licenses, our regulatory business license, our public eating licenses, our public eating with alcohol licenses, that doesn't require a hearing. And so, somebody essentially would submit for that. It's a $300 fee. And once they get all their approvals, right, from fire department, health department, building and safety, planning, and they get all their sign-offs, then we issue them the business license. And then every year thereafter, the business license renewal fee drops to $200. And so the initial is $300, and then every year thereafter is $200. And so that just kind of gives you, a snapshot. And then like your retail businesses are not regulated. So not every business has to go and get a business license. I think it's important to know. We only have 34 different types of businesses that do. But your retail clothing business does not need to come in and get a regulatory business license, but every business that's operating in the city needs to get what's called, and this is where it gets a little confusing, a business tax certificate. And so that's different than a business regulatory license. And so they still need to get that through our finance division. And that's, Jessica would know the cost of that. I think it's, what is it, Jessica, like $25 or something around that to submit for that application for a BTC?
Yeah, the first year it is $26 to obtain a business tax certificate, which is required by all businesses.
Right.
I think that's the certificate that the applicant had in December that she assumed was a license. So I can see why that can be a little confusing in that respect. Well, thank you, Ms. Rivas. It's hard enough to sustain a business nowadays, let alone open a business. So thank you for your information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any other comments from anyone? Okay, are there any adjournment motions? Well, then the West Hollywood Business License Commission will adjourn to its next regular meeting, which will be Tuesday, March 7th, 2023 at 6 p.m. In person at the West Hollywood Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers, 625 North San Vicente Boulevard, West Hollywood, 90069. Thank you, everyone.
See you in the council chambers. Happy Valentine's, everyone. In advance.
Happy
Thank you.
Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's.
Happy
Thank you.
Valentine's. Great meeting, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Danny.
Tight shift.
Okay, bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye.
The Romantics by the late 19th century French poet and playwright Edmond Rostand. Now, of course, Edmond Rostand is best known for his later classic Cyrano de Bergerac. Free theatre in the park.